Welcome to a special mini-series of the Empowerista podcast, my remodeling diaries. Join me as I tackle my first fixer-upper. I'm going to share insights and probably mistakes that I make along the way. Subscribe and listen as I transform a charming 1920s bungalow in Milwaukee, Wisconsin into our new home, hopefully on time and on budget. So we have officially owned our new fixer-upper for a week and a half now and making lots of strides, waiting on a few things as well, but we are definitely trekking along, and I thought I would give you an update. So I have had a ton of contractor meetings, and I definitely want to do an episode on that, but I feel like I'm still in the thick of picking contractors, so I don't have my top insights for you on that topic yet. What I do feel like I have some insights to share on is when it comes to design. So obviously, as I move forward with, for example, this upcoming week, I'm having an electrician come in and they're going to install light fixtures. And then I'm going to also in 2 weeks have somebody do the first floor bathroom. I'm having to make more micro decisions. I wanted to make sure that I zoomed out and was looking at the big picture of the design of my home. So that's what I want to talk to you about today is where do you even begin when it comes to mapping out your design plan for your home. And by the way, I'm really new at this. So everything I'm sharing today are new insights that I've gathered by watching Fixer Upper on HGTV and looking on Pinterest and reading blog posts. But it's been really, really helpful for me to do this DIY big picture design so I can start making some important decisions. So what I recommend that was really helpful for me is to go on Pinterest and just start pinning things that you like, not even having a strategy to it, just pinning the pins that you feel drawn to and inspired by. And what happened was at first I was all over the place. I had shiny object syndrome where I was like, ooh, I love this boho look and this farmhouse look and this French cottage look. And I just freely posted. And then I was like, all right, I gotta hone it down a little bit and really get in touch with what is a look that I want to pursue for this house. So something that kept popping up as I was watching Fixer Upper and reading those blog posts is to be true to the original home. So this home is a 1920s bungalow. It's historic. It's in an urban neighborhood. And so as much as when I'm out in California, I dig the boho scene, as much as when I'm out in the country, I love the farmhouse scene, I wanted to be true to the original home. And then I was looking for themes. Okay, when I'm looking at the pins that would be true to the original home, this 1920s bungalow, what are the themes that I keep pinning over and over? And a few things came to mind. First of all, I don't like heavy, flashy, or too bold. Instead, I really like light, airy, but cozy and classic so that I can be true to the home again. And I found a specific house that I really felt captured this perfect balance between being light and airy, yet cozy and classic. And that was, of course, from Fixer Upper. It was the Tudor home from the 1920s. I believe that was the decade at least. Designer Joanna Gaines, love her. She's amazing. And so I had a specific home that I could look to for inspiration. And then I also had some other pins where it's like, okay, I don't really maybe like this exact light fixture, so I'm going to look to this pin for the light fixture, etc., etc. So that was really, really helpful because I'm not a professional designer. So having something that I can look to and emulate has been really crucial. So with this light, airy, cozy, yet classic inspiration in mind, I knew I had to address the heavy wood. And the wood is a catch-22 because on one hand, I love the woodwork that's from the 1920s. So I certainly wanted to lean into that, but at the same time, I wanted to bring in more light and airy. I even considered painting the woodwork and painting the gray brick. And I did a lot of research on this, and I'm glad I did, because after doing the research and asking myself what my preference is, the more often than not theme that kept coming up was don't touch beautiful original woodwork, especially from a home from that era. In the early 1900s, homes were built so well with craftsmanship, and you're just not going to find that in a modern, newer home. So that's something that's unique and should be preserved in the home. So as much as I love the look that you see in more modern homes where there's lighter trim, it definitely gives it that light and airy feel. It was more important to me to preserve the original charm of this home. So that meant that I was going to have to find other ways of bringing in light and airy. Just kind of a little obvious thing, being mindful of not incorporating more wood elements via design. I was considering at first, before I was doing this research, doing butcher block countertops because I love them, especially in a farmhouse. But that goes back to, okay, but you have to be true to this house. And in this house, this is not a farmhouse. This is a 1920s bungalow with a lot of woodwork. I don't want to do more wood. And I'm also being mindful of that for my decor. So as much as I love wood framed mirrors, I'm probably going to do metal framed mirrors. As much as I love wood framed light fixtures, I'm going to do metal light fixtures. So speaking of light fixtures, I have an electrician coming this upcoming week. So I had to make some decisions around them. And this felt like the first big set of decisions that I had to make when it comes to design. And obviously every design decision is going to impact the next. So I'm not going to lie, this is the first pressure that I've felt around design and making decisions around the house. And there's so many different options I could have gone. There's so many different things I think are beautiful. I love the boldness of a matte black. I love the softness of a silver or a chrome. Gosh, there's copper. There's so many different things you can do. But ultimately, I kept being drawn to brass over and over. So brass, like an antique gold. I love that look. The majority of my pins had it. And then not only was I drawn to it, I also think it's what's best for the home, because I didn't want to do something heavy in contrast to the wood. I wanted it to be a light contrast and to have contrast. So doing a light, bright, warm metal, I thought was going to give a nice contrast, warm it up, lighten it up. And brass is very much so a metal that was used during the 1920s, so it's being, again, true to the home. And don't just take my word for it. Actually, Joanna Gaines, in her book, Homebody, which I was just gifted by my sister, love that book, by the way, she does mention that for historical homes, brass is a great metal to use. So even though I'm clear on what my primary metal is, brass, I also love that mixed metal look. I was nervous to explore this at first, but I did enough research on it that I feel comfortable about it. So I'm going to share with you what I learned in case you want to incorporate this yourself. So what the experts in interior design say is certainly have a primary metal. So in my case, that's going to be brass. And then you can have an additional 1 to 2, so 2 to 3 metals total. And you want to make sure that you're repeating every metal at least 2 times. So for example, you might have the same metal for your cabinet hardware and your doorknobs. or the same metal for your light fixture and your sink. One interior designer said consider having the same metal at the same eye line, so all light fixtures would be the same metal. Every doorknob would be the same metal, for example. So I'm doing brass for light fixtures, and then we have bronze doorknobs. So there's a good chance that I'm going to do bronze for the cabinet hardware, since that's going to be a similar eye level. Other things I'm thinking about when I'm planning my overall look and creating this light and airy feel is what furniture I'm going to use, because it all works together, right? So even though I'm not purchasing furniture yet, I want to make sure that I'm clear on my big picture: light, airy, cozy, classic. So when I'm actually pulling the trigger on decisions like my light fixtures, I do want to keep in mind, okay, what's my dining room table going to look like? What are the chairs that are surrounding it going to look like? So that's really where that mood board keeps you honest. Even if you're not making all the decisions yet, you want to keep that big picture in mind. Other decisions I've made, I'm very clear that I'm going to restore the hardwood floors. So the majority of the first floor is going to be hardwoods. And then in the first floor bathroom, I'm going to do this white and black penny tile, which is true to that era. Very classic, will look nice with a gold light fixture and some gold and bronze hardware in general. And then in the kitchen, I am going to do a grayish for painting the cabinets. I'm going to use that same grayish to paint the wood trim in the kitchen only, because that is not original wood. It's actually kind of cheap looking wood, so I don't feel guilty about painting it. And I think that will really, really brighten up the kitchen. I'm going to do the same wall color, a very balanced creamy white throughout the entire first floor for continuity. I'm going to see how I can bring that grayish that I'm painting the trim and the cabinets in the kitchen into the living and dining room somewhere, maybe in a door, for example, or one of the newer built-ins I would feel comfortable painting. So those are my initial design thoughts. I wanted to give you a quick update as I'm going through it and share those insights that are driving my initial decisions, which will ultimately drive all of my design decisions. And I'm super excited to see those light fixtures get put in, that bathroom get done, and we have a lot more. I haven't even covered what we're doing on the second floor because we're gutting it and doing so much work. By the way, if you haven't seen the before home tour, I did a video showing you everything of what we're starting with. You can check it out on Instagram at Alex Worley. I'll link to it in the show notes. But we are definitely moving forward. Like I said, electricians coming this week, then the bathroom. We have to go in a very strategic order because we are replacing knob and tube electric, which is going to result in us having to do some patching of drywall. So we can't paint until the drywall's done. And then we don't want to rip out the carpet to restore the hardwoods underneath until we've painted, because it's easier to paint when you don't have to worry about it dripping on the floors. So that's been an interesting thing to navigate, but I just kind of see it as this big giant puzzle that I'm putting together. And luckily we're not in a rush, so I really get to enjoy the process. And so far, I really am enjoying it. To see this transformation take place, come join me on Instagram at Alex Worley. That's at AlexWehrley. I'll link it in the show notes. And until next time, have an amazing week.